With the rise of the body positivity movement, people on the heavier side of the weight spectrum are claiming that fat is beautiful, and most importantly, that fat isn't a choice. But is that really the case? We've heard many reasonings as to why one is overweight, most of which given by these activists as something out of their control and as something to just be accepted. I'm sure we're all familiar with the excuse of "I just have thick bones" or "I have a slow metabolism." These and many other statements are mainly being used as excuses for said overweight people to get out of having to do something about their glaring issue, the issue which will likely take their life if they're not to change their ways. On the other side of this argument are the people claiming that losing fat is quite simple. You just have to eat less, calories in and calories out. All it comes down to is tracking, and so on. While it may seem simple on paper, losing weight requires much more than just telling someone to not consume as much and magically expecting a quick and lasting result. Quickly, before we continue, would you mind gently caressing the subscribe button as it helps out a ton? Anyway, enjoy the video. There are a few key things required for one to actually get and keep the weight off in a healthy manner. I believe that, apart from motivation, which will be the force to drive one in their weight loss journey, there are two main changes the individual must make in order to succeed: a mindset and an environment change. Most overweight people go through with weight loss as they think it is something they have to do, as a result of an external pressure, not seeing the true reason of why it is so important to change, whether it's by feeling pressured from society's beauty standards, or having someone directly comment on them needing to be thinner. A lot of the time, being faced with this sort of pressure, the individual may choose to do one of three things. They might decide to go for healthy weight loss and succeed, although not that likely. I'll tell you why a bit later. They might go for unhealthy and short-term weight loss. Or they might not take any measures at all, thus remaining overweight. The individuals who opt for unhealthy weight loss are those who crash diet. They restrict much of their food intake in order to slim down quicker, sending their body into shock, putting it into a state of starvation, and as a result, the body reacts, making losing weight a slower process. The individuals who follow this method can't stick to those restrictions in the long run. Because of this, they eventually go back to their old eating habits, which results into two things. When going back to eating as they did before, they continue with their unhealthy habits. Even if in their restriction period they manage to lose the weight, they will put it right back on at the moment they go back to their normal eating. The second thing that happens is your body, when being put on this starvation mode, releases more of a hormone which makes you hungrier in order to get you to ingest food. As a result, when you finally decide to indulge once more, you won't be able to stop eating as easily and will most likely overeat, causing you to put back the weight lost and maybe even more. Or, basically, you will go through the yo-yo effect. The people, however, who decide not to do anything about it are probably the most destructive, even though the previous group aren't good either. This group of people, rather than choose to do something about their issue, they accept and/or embrace it, either as a result of simply not caring enough or feeling it's too late. They decide to give up on themselves and further indulge in their delicious addictions. This group of people can be especially dangerous as, apart from further damaging themselves and their own bodies and health, they may turn to the internet and become a part of the body, positive influencers promoting this extremely unhealthy lifestyle. By going on social media and preaching how this is the happiest and healthiest they've ever been, or how the point at which they are isn't their fault, yet genetics can negatively influence other people to go down this extremely destructive path of overindulgence, creating a toxic and unhealthy cycle. The first group, or the group choosing to lose weight in a healthy way, are obviously the best. But for one to achieve their goals, this way is undoubtedly the hardest. They must have many things in order first. As to lose weight healthily and keep it off, you need to have the right mindset. This, in itself, is much easier said than done. the people who truly lose the weight don't do it solely because of losing it. They do it because they want to begin living a healthier life. They want to start a new chapter. These people are well aware that in order to be at a certain weight and look a certain way, they have to make new habits and eating patterns. So, how do they do it? Simple. They don't start by crash dieting for starters. They begin by identifying the problems in their eating habits. They eliminate them, not entirely, but step by step. For example, you might be the type of person to eat an entire family-sized pizza before bed. These people recognize that that might not be the best thing to do, and they begin by making the amount of food they intake smaller. They start by leaving one slice, the next day 2, and so on until eventually, eating the entire pizza every day before bed is no longer a need. By recognizing and slowly eliminating the problems, they manage to once and for all lose the weight. This method is, in my opinion, the best one. You don't restrict yourself, you don't have bad foods, you eat whatever. You just know what is too much and when is too often, simply put. You learn to balance healthy foods. You sometimes indulge in something unhealthy, but not to the extent of it being an everyday thing. This way of losing weight has its downsides, however. Many people may not be fond of the idea of doing things step by step. They might want to do everything at once, as to see the results instantly. If someone attempts to lose weight by doing these things, they might quickly feel discouraged, as they aren't seeing any results. They may feel it's pointless to even make a change when the change doesn't give them an immediate gratification and positive result. You can't blame people for thinking this way. Many studies have shown that people think of themselves from the future as someone else. They also tend to value other people less than what they do themselves, and so they don't stay committed to these changes in the long run. They start to wonder why they are doing what they are and whether it's even worth it. They simply set aside the issue and work needed to fix it as a future problem, thus failing over and over again. For one to continue down this path of weight loss, they have to have a constant stream of motivation. This is why the environment also plays a key role in weight loss. If you have someone enabling your addictive behaviours, you are much more likely to quit. However, if you have a support system cheering you on every step of the way, you will lose and keep the weight off, as with any other addiction. It is also important to note, if people in your surrounding are criticising your body and telling you to just stop eating, it will do more harm than good. When hearing these things, you might feel motivated in the beginning, but at some point you will inevitably give up as a result of the tremendous pressure. You can't always have the perfect people surrounding you, which is why it is important to remove as much of the negative ones as possible, or at least find a way to not be affected by the negative comments or enablings. When you develop an eating pattern which includes overindulging in fast food, you will also be far more susceptible to the ads of fast food stores targeting people like you and enticing you to eat more. You will also find it more difficult to give up the delicious food and switch it for something more normal, as you will have gotten used to the artificial flavouring and extra dopamine released when consuming ultra-processed foods. Regular things will just feel bland in comparison. All of these factors combined may make an individual feel like weight loss is impossible, and that being fat isn't a choice, and very well may be something you can't change. They might get uninspired from the difficulties to change their lifestyle, and may find it far easier and more convenient to stick to their life as is now rather than change. This is why, when seeing someone online who is preaching how fat is healthy or beautiful, we shouldn't attack them, yet have a bit more understanding of why it is they think that. Deep down, they are well aware of the fact that it isn't good for them, but they might simply feel helpless, and your negative comment may make them spiral into their addiction even more. I'm not saying we should ignore these people and let them influence others into becoming obese as well, but we shouldn't insult them either. By giving them a helping hand and pointing them to the correct resources, we can all live a healthier life as a collective.